Moving to attribution for a moment, you often hear government officials talk about how difficult attribution is. Russia and China like to say as much in order to cast doubt on the US government's assertions that they're behind certain hacking campaigns. How difficult is attribution really? And do you think the US government would have reached the point of attributing to foreign governments as it does now without companies like FireEye and CrowdStrike pushing them along?
Yeah, I think attribution can be had many different ways. I can tell you it's hard to pull the thread on every security incident we respond to. And, not every incident is a breach, but when you have a security breach of impact and consequence, and we start pulling the evidentiary threads, good hackers can remain at least in the gray area for attribution. I think we can get the nation that they're in, the geography they're in, but there's got to be other means to get attribution besides just following the evidence back. You can follow Bitcoin payments back as best as you can, and maybe we can pierce anonymity that way. I do know that even if you don't get it right, even if you're not sure who gave the order, whether they're government or just a lone actor, there could be classification that this is a state level attack versus standard criminal based attack. I think it's harder to discern the difference, but I do think the label matters because it goes towards liability. We have, I go back, Ellen, to Anthem getting compromised. It was a nation that compromised Anthem, but nobody did attribution, and Anthem had to take a constant onslaught of plaintiff lawsuits when in reality, I believe it was people in uniform that compromised them. Meanwhile, Sony Pictures gets compromised, and the president did attribution at the time and said it was North Korea. That attribution goes a long way to assisting the victim companies into a recovery and helps deflate some of the plaintiff lawsuits that I don't think are warranted. We don't want to establish the bar as a nation that every one of our companies, that the Washington Post should stop the Russian SVR from breaking in. Because I think when a nation goes against company, the nation's going to win in cyberspace over time. So we got to be careful, and we got to figure out how to label these things appropriately, because it'll help the victims, it'll help insurance companies, and it'll actually help the nation in the long term. So we don't need perfect.
So should the US government be doing more to beat back these denials by states and to help these companies by doing more public attributions the way you're saying it happened with Sony and helped Sony?
Well, I think all you need to do, for me, categorical attribution is good enough, meaning it was a nation state that attacked victim EA. And don't say the nation if it's pie in their face and it impacts other diplomatic efforts on your agenda. But let people know, maybe in a back room through a back channel, hey, we know this is you. We find it unacceptable. You got to have, in my opinion, here's the good news, Ellen, I'm not a diplomat. I have the easier job of figuring out cybersecurity. At the end of the day, as diplomats, I do believe there will be diplomatic solutions. I do believe what we see in cyberspace, in aggression on offense, is directly tied to geopolitical conditions. So it's absurd to think that geopolitical relationships won't impact cybersecurity. I know they will. For those folks that are chartered with diplomacy, I think that is a valid tool, and we can't just attack cyber defense with technology alone. We do need diplomacy. And you heard the senator say we need international cooperation. He's exactly right. You're going to see geopolitical alignment, both for economy as well as security, and those countries that are like-minded are going to enforce certain rules of engagement.
The senator also said he thought it was a good idea to use Cyber Command to punch back overseas, even at criminal actors, for instance, who to disrupt ransomware rings. What do you think of that idea, and how effective do you think it'll be?
I've thought about that a lot for 15 years or more, and there's risks to it, and obviously I like the idea, and the senator alluded to this. We have to have a doctrine on proportional response to cyber attacks. We have to respond as a coordinated nation, and now with the National Cyber Director, you can see that we should be able to coordinate a little bit better. And with the team that we have in the government now, I think we will respond more holistically as a nation to attacks that hit the private sector or the public sector. But I think that attacks in the cyber domain, the only challenge that I'd warn us against there is the asymmetry of it. We're in the glass house in cyber. That doesn't mean our defenses are bad. What I'm saying is we're in the expensive house. If cyber domain is where we choose to go tit for tat in, the challenge we've got is we stand to lose more as a nation than other nations. And take, for example, North Korea. I doubt they rely on the internet and interconnectedness like the United States does. So if we escalate in cyberspace against North Korea and that forces their side to escalate, the damage to our side's far greater. And I'll leave you with this, Ellen. If they're throwing rocks at our house and we're throwing rocks at their house, they're destroying trillions of dollars in our house, and we're destroying millions of dollars in their house. So it's too asymmetrical. I think it is a tool, but I think you have other levers that you can pull as well to enforce better behavior in cyberspace.